In a galaxy far, far away, there were many different kinds of aliens. They all came together to form a group called the Galactic Council. The council had members from all the powerful alien races in the galaxy. They met to make rules and decisions that affected everyone. One day, a new kind of creature joined the galaxy. They were called humans. Humans were very different from the other aliens. They were smart and learned things very quickly. They made new tools and machines that none of the other races had ever seen before. At first, the Galactic Council was happy to welcome humans. They thought humans would be good members of the galaxy. But as time passed, the council started to worry. Humans were growing and spreading much faster than any other race. They were exploring new planets and making colonies everywhere. Some of the aliens on the council became scared of humans. They thought humans would become too strong and take over the whole galaxy. They didn't want to share power with this new race. The leader of the council was a tall blue alien named Zorax. He had always been afraid of change. He didn't like that humans were doing things differently. He called a secret meeting with his closest allies on the council. "Humans are a danger to our way of life," Zorax said. "If we don't stop them now, they will control everything." The other aliens nodded in agreement. They knew they had to do something to make humans weaker. But they couldn't let the humans know about their plan. "I have an idea," said a slimy, green alien named Grok. "Humans care a lot about their children. If we kill many of their children, they will be too sad to fight us." Zorax smiled an evil smile. He liked this plan. The other aliens agreed that killing human children was the best way to stop humans from becoming too powerful. They spent many days planning their attack. They made special weapons that would only hurt children. They chose the biggest human colonies to attack first. They wanted to kill as many children as possible in one big surprise. While the council planned, humans continued to explore and grow. They had no idea that the aliens they thought were their friends were actually plotting against them. Human children played and learned, never knowing that they were in danger. The council chose a date for their attack. They called it the Great Culling. They thought it sounded important and powerful. Zorax gave a speech to the council members who would carry out the plan. "Today, we save our galaxy," he said. "Today, we put an end to the human threat. We will kill their children and make them weak. They will never recover from this loss." The aliens cheered and prepared their ships. They were ready to start their mission of death and pain. They believed they were doing the right thing for the galaxy. They thought humans deserved to suffer. As the alien ships flew toward human colonies, the children slept peacefully in their beds. They dreamed of growing up to be explorers and inventors like their parents. They had no idea that their lives were about to change forever. On the Galactic Council's ship, Zorax watched the stars pass by outside his window. He felt proud of his plan. He believed he was saving the galaxy from a terrible fate. He didn't care about the innocents he was about to destroy. To him, humans were just things, not living beings with hopes and dreams. The ships grew closer to the human colonies. The aliens checked their weapons one last time. They were ready to kill. The slaughter was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The alien ships landed quietly on the human colonies. It was the middle of the night, and most people were sleeping. The aliens had chosen this time carefully. They wanted to catch the humans by surprise. Groups of alien soldiers snuck into the houses where human families lived. They had special machines that could tell them which rooms had children inside. The soldiers went straight to these rooms, moving silently through the dark halls. In one house, a little girl named Sarah woke up when she heard a strange noise. She sat up in her bed and saw a tall, shadowy figure coming into her room. She was scared and called out for her parents. But before her parents could come, the alien soldier fired his weapon. A bright flash of light filled the room, and Sarah fell back onto her pillow, never to wake up again. This same thing was happening in house after house all across the human colonies. Alien soldiers were killing children with their special weapons. They didn't care about the children's cries or the parents' screams of horror. They had a job to do, and they were going to do it. Some parents tried to fight back. They grabbed whatever weapons they could find and shot at the aliens, but the aliens had better armor and weapons. Most of the parents who fought were killed, unable to save their children. By the time the sun rose, millions of human children were dead. The colonies were filled with the sounds of crying and wailing. Parents held the bodies of their sons and daughters, unable to believe what had happened. News of the attack spread quickly to other human colonies and back to Earth. People everywhere were shocked and angry. They couldn't understand why the Galactic Council, who they thought were their friends, would do something so terrible. The human leaders called for an emergency meeting. They knew they had to do something to respond to this attack, but they also knew they weren't ready for a war. The Galactic Council had much more advanced weapons and technology. While the leaders tried to make a plan, the colonies were in chaos. Parents were burying their children and trying to comfort each other. Many people were too sad and scared to go to work or school. The colonies felt like they were falling apart. Orcs and the other council members watched all of this happening from their ships. They were pleased with the results of their attack. They could see that humans were weaker now. They thought the humans would be too sad to fight back. But Orcs didn't know humans as well as he thought. He didn't understand the depth of a parent's love or the strength of human anger. He had no idea that by killing children, he had started something that would change the galaxy forever. Back on the colonies, a young woman named Lena stood at the grave of her little brother. He had been killed in the attack, and she had been the one to find his body. As she looked at his small grave, Lena felt a fire growing inside her. It was a fire of rage and determination. She looked up at the sky, where she could see the distant shapes of the council's ships. She made a promise to her brother and to all the other children who had died. "We will make them pay," she whispered. "We will make them regret ever thinking they could hurt us. Humans will fight, and we will win. I promise you." Lena didn't know it yet, but her words would become a rallying cry for all of humanity. The Galactic Council had started this war, but humans would be the ones to finish it. The rage of parents who had lost their children would fuel a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The slaughter may have ended, but the real battle was just beginning. In the days after the attack, humans everywhere were in shock. They cried, they got angry, and they tried to understand why the Galactic Council had done such a terrible thing. But as the shock started to wear off, something else took its place. It was a feeling of unity and purpose. Humans had always been divided. They fought wars against each other and often couldn't agree on important things. But now, faced with a common enemy, they started to come together like never before. On Earth and in every human colony, people gathered to talk about what they should do. They knew they needed a plan to fight back against the Council. They knew they needed to be strong together. In one of these meetings, a man named Marcus stood up to speak. He was a father who had lost 2 children in the attack. His eyes were filled with pain, but his voice was strong and clear. "The Galactic Council thinks they have broken us," he said. "They think we will be too weak and too scared to fight back. But they are wrong. They have given us a reason to come together, to stand united. We will fight, not just for revenge, but for our survival. We will show them the true strength of humanity." The people listening to Marcus started to cheer. His words gave them hope and courage. They knew he was right. They had to fight. Similar scenes were happening all over human space. People were coming together, sharing their grief and their anger. They were making plans and preparing for war. As the days passed, a name started to be whispered among the humans. It was the name of a leader, someone who could guide them in this fight. The name was Lena. Lena was the young woman who had lost her brother in the attack. After his death, she had started to speak out. She talked about the need for unity and strength. She said that humans had to be smart and brave if they wanted to beat the Council. People started to listen to Lena. They liked her courage and her honesty. They began to see her as a symbol of their fight. Lena didn't ask to be a leader. She was still grieving for her brother, but she knew that humans needed someone to bring them together. She accepted the role and started to work on a plan. She met with other leaders and military experts. They talked about the Council's weaknesses and how humans could use them. They designed new weapons and spaceships. They trained soldiers and prepared for the coming battles. As Lena worked, she thought often of her brother. She remembered his smile, his laugh, and the way he always tried to help others. She knew he would be proud of what she was doing. Under Lena's guidance, humans began to unite like never before. Colonies that had once been rivals started to work together. Soldiers from different planets trained side by side. Scientists shared their knowledge and worked on new inventions. For the first time in history, all of humanity was coming together. They had a common goal and a common enemy. They were ready to fight. Zorax and the other council members heard about what was happening with the humans. Some of them started to worry. They had thought humans would be too weak to resist. They hadn't expected this unity and determination. But Zorax wasn't worried. He still believed that the council was too powerful to be beaten by humans. He thought Lena and her followers were foolish to even try. "Let them come," he said to the other council members. "We will crush them and finish what we started. Humans will learn their place in this galaxy." As Zorax spoke, Lena was giving a speech to a huge crowd of humans. They had gathered to hear her plan and to show their support. "The council thinks they know us," Lena said, her voice ringing out. "They think they can break us, but they have no idea what humans are capable of. We will fight, and we will win. We will make a new future for ourselves and for all the children who will come after us. The council will pay for what they have done. This is our promise and our revenge." The crowd cheered, their voices rising into the sky. They were ready. The war was about to begin. Under Lena's leadership, the human armies were ready. They had new ships, new weapons, and a fierce determination to make the Galactic Council pay for what they had done. It was time to strike back. Lena had a bold plan. She wanted to attack the Council's main planets, the ones where their leaders lived. She knew it would be a surprise. The Council wouldn't expect humans to be so brave. The human fleet gathered in secret. Ships from every colony came together, forming a massive army in space. Lena stood on the bridge of the biggest ship, looking out at the stars. She thought of her brother and all the other children who had died. She knew this was for them. With a signal from Lena, the human ships jumped into hyperspace. They were heading straight for the heart of the Council's empire. On the Council planets, life was going on as normal. The alien leaders had no idea that an attack was coming. They felt safe and confident, believing that humans were too weak to be a threat. But they were wrong. Suddenly, the skies above their planets were filled with human ships. Before the Council could react, the humans started to attack. Lena had armed her ships with special weapons designed to target the Council's weaknesses. There were electromagnetic pulses that shut down the Council's computers, viruses that infected their systems, and missiles that could pierce their strongest shields. The Council tried to fight back, but they were caught off guard. Their ships were slower and their weapons less effective. The human ships darted around them, striking hard and fast. On the ground, human soldiers landed and started to take over key buildings. They had trained for this moment, and they knew exactly what to do. They captured council leaders and took control of communication centers. In just a few hours, the council's main planets were in chaos. The once proud alien leaders were running scared, trying to hide from the human forces. Zorax, the leader of the council, was in his palace when the attack began. He couldn't believe what was happening. He had been so sure of the council's power, so certain that humans could never touch them. As human soldiers stormed his palace, Zorax tried to escape, but he was too slow. A group of humans, led by Lena herself, caught him. Lena looked at Zorax, the alien who had caused so much pain and death. She wanted to kill him, to make him suffer like he had made so many others suffer. But she knew that wasn't the right thing to do. "You will face justice," she told him. "You will answer for your crimes against humanity." Zorax said nothing. He just stared at Lena with hatred and fear in his eyes. Across the galaxy, news of the human victory spread. The other alien races, who had long been afraid of the Council, were amazed. They had never thought anyone could defeat the Council, let alone the young, inexperienced humans. Many aliens started to see humans in a new light. They saw their strength, their determination, and their unity. Some even started to talk about joining with humans, about creating a new galactic order. But the war wasn't over yet. The Council still had many ships and soldiers, and they were sure to fight back. Lena knew this was just the beginning. As she looked out at the stars from the bridge of her ship, Lena thought about the future. She knew there would be more battles, more losses, more pain. But she also knew that humans would never give up. They would keep fighting for their children, for their freedom, and for their place in the galaxy. The Council had started this war, but humans would be the ones to end it. And Lena would be there, leading the way, until the very last battle was won. But for now, in this moment of victory, Lena allowed herself a small smile. They had shown the galaxy what humans were made of. They had shown that they would not be broken or bowed. They were the masters of their own destiny. And they would fight for it, no matter the cost. The Galactic Council was in trouble. The humans had surprised them with their attack and their advanced weapons. Many Council planets had fallen, and their leaders were scared. But the Council wasn't ready to give up. They had a secret plan, a last resort that they had never used before. It was time to bring out their most dangerous weapons. Deep in a hidden base, Council scientists had been working on special projects. They had created AI robots that could think and fight on their own. They had also made super soldiers by changing the genes of their strongest warriors. These weapons were very powerful, but they were also very hard to control. That's why the Council had never used them before. But now, with the humans winning, they felt they had no choice. Zorax, who had escaped from Lena, gave the order to activate the AI robots and super soldiers. He didn't care about the risks. All he wanted was to beat the humans. The AI robots were loaded into special ships and sent to fight the humans. These robots were fast and deadly. They could predict what the humans would do and counter their every move. On the ground, the super soldiers were released. They were huge and strong, with skin that could heal itself and eyes that could see in the dark. They attacked human colonies with terrible ferocity. Lena and her soldiers were shocked by these new enemies. They had never seen anything like the AI robots or the super soldiers. Their weapons seemed useless against them. Many human ships were destroyed by the robots. Colonies were burned and people were killed by the super soldiers. It seemed like the Council might win after all. But Lena wasn't ready to give up. She knew that every weapon had a weakness. They just had to find it. She gathered her smartest scientists and asked them to study the AI robots and super soldiers. They worked day and night, looking for any flaw or weakness. Finally, they found something. The AI robots were controlled by a central computer. If they could shut down that computer, the robots would stop working. And the super soldiers, despite their strength, still needed to breathe. If humans could trap them in a place with no air, they would die. Lena made a new plan. She sent a small team of her best soldiers to sneak into the Council's hidden base. Their mission was to find the central computer and destroy it. At the same time, she led an attack on a planet where many super soldiers were based. The humans used special bombs that sucked all the air out of the area. The super soldiers fell, one by one. The mission to the Council base was dangerous. Many of Lena's soldiers died. But finally, they found the central computer and blew it up. Across the galaxy, the AI robots stopped moving and fell silent. It was a major blow to the Council. Their secret weapons had failed. They had nothing left to fight with. But the cost had been high for humans too. Many lives had been lost, and many colonies destroyed. Lena knew that the war was far from over. As she stood among the ruins of a battle, Lena made a promise. She promised that humans would never again be caught off guard. They would be ready for anything, any trick or weapon the Council might use. She also knew that they couldn't win this war alone. They needed allies, other races who had been hurt by the Council. It was time to reach out and build a new alliance. The battle continued, but now the tide was turning. Humans had shown that they were not just survivors, but warriors. They would not rest until the Council was defeated and the galaxy was free. Lena looked up at the stars, imagining the battles to come and the peace that might follow. It was a long road ahead, but she was ready to walk it, for all of humanity. In the distance, the wreckage of an AI robot lay smoking, a symbol of the Council's desperation and the indomitable human spirit that would, in the end, prevail. The war had been long and hard. Both humans and the Galactic Council had lost a lot. But it was time for the final battle, the one that would decide the future of the galaxy. Lena had learned that the Council's leaders were gathering at their capital planet. They were planning to make a last stand, to use all their remaining weapons and soldiers in one big fight. Lena knew this was their chance. If they could win this battle, the war would be over. The Council would have nothing left. She gathered all her ships and all her soldiers. It was the biggest human fleet ever seen. Every ship was armed with the best weapons, and every soldier was ready to fight until the end. As they approached the Council's capital, they saw that the Council's fleet was also huge. It seemed like every ship they had left was there, waiting for the humans. The battle began with a fury. Ships fired at each other. Explosions lit up the sky. Soldiers fought hand-to-hand on the ground. Lena was in the middle of it all, leading her troops, making split-second decisions. She saw ships on both sides explode. She saw friends and enemies fall. But she kept going, driven by the thought of all they had lost and all they were fighting for. The battle raged for hours. Neither side seemed to be winning. For every Council ship destroyed, a human ship also fell. For every Council soldier killed, a human life was also lost. But then, something changed. One of Lena's officers had an idea. They had noticed a weakness in the Council's defenses, a way to get close to their main ship. It was risky, but Lena knew it might be their only chance. She gave the order, and a small group of human ships broke away from the main battle. They flew straight towards the Council's biggest ship, taking heavy fire, but not stopping. Just as it seemed the human ships would be destroyed, they released a new weapon. It was a kind of energy beam that could cut through anything. The beam hit the Council ship and sliced it in half. There was a moment of stunned silence, then cheers from the human fleet. The Council's main ship, their last hope, was gone. After that, the battle turned. The Council's ships started to retreat. Their soldiers surrendered. They knew they had lost. But the cost was terrible. Many human ships were nothing but debris. Many brave soldiers had given their lives. As the smoke cleared, Lena stood on the bridge of her ship, exhausted and grieving, but also proud. They had done it. They had won. But she knew the work wasn't over. There was a galaxy to rebuild, wounds to heal, a new order to create. She thought of all they had been through, all they had sacrificed. She thought of her brother and all the other children who had been lost. Their deaths had not been in vain. Lena looked out at the stars, at the endless possibilities ahead. Humans had proven themselves. They had shown that they were not just survivors, but leaders. They would help shape the future of the galaxy. It wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges and setbacks. But Lena knew that humans would face them as they had faced everything else. Together, with courage and determination. The last big fight was over. But the journey, the real journey, was just beginning. And Lena was ready for it. They all were. In the distance, the wreckage of the Council's main ship drifted, a silent testament to the power of human will, the strength of human unity, and the unbreakable human spirit that had changed the galaxy forever. As the human fleet turned towards home, towards a future they would shape, Lena allowed herself a small smile. They had done it. Against all odds, they had won. And now, anything was possible. The war was over. The Galactic Council had fallen. Now, it was time to build a new future. Lena and the other human leaders knew they had a big job ahead of them. They had to make sure that something like this never happened again. They had to create a new way for all races in the galaxy to live together in peace. The first thing they did was put the leaders of the council on trial. Zorax and the others were made to answer for their crimes. They were punished for all the pain and death they had caused. But Lena knew that punishment alone wasn't enough. They had to change the way the galaxy worked. She called a big meeting of all the races. For the first time, everyone had a say, not just the powerful few. They talked about what had gone wrong with the council and how they could make things better. They decided to create a new group to lead the galaxy. It would be called the Galactic Alliance. Every race would have a voice in it. The leaders would be chosen by everyone, not just the strong or the rich. Lena was chosen to be one of the first leaders of the Galactic Alliance. She promised to always listen to the needs of all races and to work for peace and fairness. Under the Galactic Alliance, things started to change. Planets that had been poor and forgotten were given help. Schools and hospitals were built. Trade between different races increased, and people started to understand each other better. Of course, there were still problems. Some races didn't trust each other. Some leaders tried to get more power for themselves. But Lena and the others worked hard to solve these problems peacefully. One of the most important things the Galactic Alliance did was to remember. They didn't want anyone to forget the terrible things that had happened. They didn't want anyone to forget the children who had died. They made a special day to honor all those who had been lost. On that day, people across the galaxy would stop their work and remember. They would tell stories of the brave humans who had fought for freedom. They would say the names of the children who had been killed. Lena always spoke on this day. She would talk about her brother and all the others who had died. She would remind everyone of why they had fought and what they had won. As the years passed, the galaxy changed. The old hatreds faded. New generations grew up hearing the stories of the war and learning the lessons of peace. Lena grew older, but she never stopped working for the galaxy she believed in. Even when her hair turned gray and her steps slowed, she was still there, still speaking out for what was right. And when at last her time came to an end, she knew that her work would go on. The children of the galaxy would remember her, just as she had remembered those who came before. On the day of Lena's funeral, the galaxy wept, but they also celebrated. They celebrated a life spent in service, a heart that had never faltered, a spirit that had changed the stars. And as they looked to the future, they knew that Lena's legacy would live on. In every child who grew up free, in every race that lived in harmony, in every star that shone with the light of hope, there was Lena. The galaxy had been through its darkest night, but thanks to Lena and all those who had fought beside her, it had found its way to a brighter dawn. And so, the story that had begun with such tragedy ended with hope. The children who had been lost were never forgotten, and the future they had dreamed of had become reality. In the light of a new era, the galaxy moved forward, united and free at last. And always, always, it remembered the ones who had made it so. This was their legacy. This was their victory. This was their gift to the stars.